we are looking at Wassily Kandinsky. The title of this piece is Yellow, Red, Blue, and that needs to be in quotation marks because it is the title. The medium, or what this piece is made out of, is oil painting, and that's on a canvas. Elements that are important for this piece are line, shape, and color. With line, if you look here on this left side, we have a lot of very straight, curved lines. They're very uniform and they don't get any thicker or thinner really. And over here on the right, we have these lines that are very wavy and a little bit more organic. They get thicker and thinner and have a little bit more life to them. They're not as stiff. We have lots of different shapes here too, plenty of circles and rectangles that are overlapped and fill up this space pretty much. For color, on the left side here, we mostly have these very bright, warm colors of red and yellow. And on the right, there are these darker, more moody colors, especially the blue here and this purple. The principles that are most important are balance and contrast. For balance, if we took this painting and cut it in half, these two halves are pretty much balanced. They have the same visual weight. There's not more information on one side of the canvas than the other. So it's not symmetrical, but it is visually balanced. Like if you had both of these sides on a scale, neither one would tip the scale one way or the other. They're fairly even. For contrast, again, we already mentioned that there's very straight and consistent lines here on the left side, and the wavy, more bold, and then it gets thin, kind of organic lines on the right side. So those are opposite, which contrast one another. Also, again, we've got the cool colors here on the right and the warm on the left. Those are opposites as well. The mood for this piece is varied and chaotic. This is meant to invoke many emotions in the viewer. The left kind of feels very warm and energized. The right, as I mentioned before, feels a little bit moody, maybe sad in some ways, or certainly very chaotic. The left side is a little bit more organized and geometric. The genre for this painting is abstract, meaning that there is no particular thing that this is trying to be. It's particularly non-objective abstract. And whenever I look at this piece, I actually can kind of see a face over here on this side, but Kandinsky usually made his pieces completely non-objective. So he wasn't necessarily trying to make an abstract face over here, but I kind of see it. It looks like there's a nose here and an eye. This could be hair coming off of his head, and then an open mouth here with teeth. So just a very interesting placement there. So we mentioned that the piece can be divided in two already, that the left side also is more geometric and structured, and the right side is more organic and chaotic. Some facts about Kandinsky, and for your masterpiece review, you need to make sure that you write down 2 to 3 facts. Kandinsky was born in 1866 and died in 1944. This piece in particular was painted in 1925. He was a Russian painter and art theorist. He was influenced by Pablo Picasso, Vincent van Gogh, and Henri Matisse. He is credited as the first artist to create the first purely abstract piece of art. He's the father of non-objective art in some ways. He was a pioneer of the abstract movement. He started painting inspired by places that he saw, like towns and landscapes. But then typically his work didn't feature many human figures, if any. He lived through both world wars, and he felt that the choice of form and colors were from inner experience that the artist was feeling. He noticed and used the effects of color on the emotions, like we mentioned for this piece here. On this next slide, we see heavy circles on the left, and this definitely is a very dark and kind of moody piece. So he's really using color to play on the viewer's emotion. Composition 8 on the right looks very chaotic, like the first piece we just viewed. It has almost this look like a bunch of objects were picked up and then kind of thrown down on a table or dropped, and everything has just kind of been randomly placed. We have, again, a lot of those structured shapes and lines, very geometric objects there, and then some parts that are a little bit more varied and organic, some curly and squiggly lines too. So definitely very much in the same family as the first piece we looked at. Here in Circles in a Circle, sort of a similar idea with those first and third painting we looked at, but this one is a little bit more organized. So this one has mostly very strict geometric shapes and very consistent lines. We don't have any that are getting thicker or thinner. There's no wavy lines. Everything is fairly structured in this piece. It does, however, look again like some items that were picked up and kind of dropped on a surface, a little bit scattered, but not too much. The piece on the right, Color Study Squares with Concentric Circles, was a very loose study where he was working and again concentrating on just the colors pretty much. So all of the shapes are consistent, they're all circles, but they're also a little bit loose. He's not requiring himself to be working in such a perfected way like the other paintings that we saw that were, perfect circles and very precise line work and placement. This is a little bit more loose. Kandinsky wrote a lot about art theory, which is how we create art, how we come up with our creativity, how do colors work against one another. And this is the intellectual side of art making. In 1937, the Nazis were removing works of art from museums that they felt to be disruptive and degenerative and burned them. Some of Kandinsky's paintings were included in this, and I'd love for you to think about whether you think this work is disruptive and degenerative, and did some of it deserve to be burned, or do you think that it's important and we should study it?